dead. Wait till you get older than this and then turn around and tell me I was young for my age. Yeah, and it feels like 1974, waiting for the waves to come and crash on the shore. But you're far inland. You're in funky denim wonderland. You and David Crosby and a bloke with no hand. You've got hair in places most people haven't got brains. Yeah, and it feels like 1974. Sid Barrett's last session, he can't sing anymore. He's gonna have to be Roger now for the rest of his life. Ooh. Enough about me, let's talk about you. You were working at the Earth Exchange at 22. Rebel, Rebel was your favourite song on the Archway Road, where it all belonged. All those molecules of time that you thought you'd shed forever. All those inches of time that you thought you could just say bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. And as Nixon left the White House, you could hear people say they'll never rehabilitate that mother, no way. Yep, worry, worry goes the helicopter out of my way. I got a president to dump in the void. Ooh. Python's last series and The Guardian said the stench of rotting minds. But what else could you smell back then? You didn't have to inhale too hard. You could smell the hedge festering in the backyard. There's a baby in a basket that's taken your name, and one day it'll grow up and say, who are you? Aye. And you say that's where it ended, but I said, no, 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 it just faded away. August was grey. Oh, it feels like 1974. Ghastly mellow saxophones all over the floor. Feels like 1974. You could vote for Labour, but you can't anymore. Feels like 1974. Digging Led Zeppelin in Grimsby. Oh, Christ. Yeah, it stopped.
Song's ended.
Hopefully.
It's 1.5 minutes to the hour of 10. You are listening to Brain Massage on PBS, and that was Robyn Hitchcock live in the studio. Something a little bit different for the show, leading in with a song. Yeah. I've noticed, Robyn, with a lot of your press releases and articles written about you, that you're described as a bit of a cult hero. How do you comfortable with that tag?
Well, it's more accurate than saying I'm a footballer, you know. I don't know, I've been around for a while, I suppose. I was never really kind of scheduled to be a pop star. So, you know, that's fine.
What other qualities do you think are needed to become a bit of a cult hero?
Stamina. You can't really do it in 6 months. You can be absolutely mega in 6 months. You can go from being an embryo to, you know,
playing JFK Stadium if God is blowing, the right wind behind you, but you can't actually be a cult figure that fast. It's like there's certain things, fast food. People try and speed things up as much as possible, but I mean, even an orgasm takes time. You just can't do everything that quickly.
Do you think there's a certain link between, this cult hero status, in inverted commas, and a certain type of integrity? I read an anecdote about you where years ago, and tell me if this is apocryphal or not, the general manager of A&M Records sat down with you and after a while of deliberation said, there are too many fish in your songs, and so you got up and walked promptly out the door?
I don't think I walked out of any doors. Somebody might have said something like that. I mean, I don't know how many fish you're allowed in your songs, But I don't know. I mean, we're just talking about this on the way up with Beck from Warner's, but because the whole thing, it's money, it's capitalism, it's big business. You're funded by corporations to provide money for corporations. I mean, as rich as Michael Jackson is, presumably Sony have made, many, many more millions off him than he has. Obviously, very few fish actually get far enough up the stream to generate that kind of royalties. Most acts who are signed are dropped within 6 months. I don't know what the statistic is. I've sort of hung on in the crevices of the business. I mean, I'm quite tenacious. I'm still with a major label, which in some ways is quite surprising because I don't turn over the sort of revenue that they'd normally expect. Themselves, it might be better for people's egos. You just sort of be walking up and down the steps of the flat, good morning, what are you? I'm a bus driver. Oh, hi, I know, I'm a rock musician. It would level the whole thing out.
Yeah. You've said that Bob Dylan is the reason for all this.
Yeah.
Integrity is a word that's associated with him. What other of his
amazing
qualities and traits have inspired you?
Polka dot shirt. I'll be wearing a polka dot shirt tonight at the Punters Club. Harmonica. When I play harp, my nose gets much more like Dylan's. I mean, I thought I'd spare your listeners me playing the harmonica for this session, but I do it live, and my nose becomes markedly more Dylan-esque when I play harp. I think, he said something about, he was inspired by Jimmy Rogers, the singing brakeman. Not too many people have heard of him, but he was just some kind of stand-up entertainer in America. I suppose he was the singing brakeman, some railroad guy who sang. One of Dylan's self-images when he was younger, apart from Woody Guthrie, was Jimmy Rogers, the singing brakeman. And there's a whole school of, usually male, although it's now sort of broadened a bit, but everyone from sort of Neil Young to Roy Harper was a Dylan-a-bee. Some were very successful, like Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen, and others like Roy Harper and myself are much more what you'd call cult characters. But they've all got a little Dylan inside them, playing the harp and going, whoa! And that. It's, so, I mean, again, it's really interesting because have you heard the new album?
I had, Time Out of Mind? Yeah, that's brilliant.
It's great in a way, but, you still think, well, here's this middle-aged guy who's had more adulation than anybody, and certainly more than Jesus got in his lifetime, and has been possibly the most charismatic person in show business since it became show business. Billionaire accolades, and he's obviously so utterly miserable, and boy, I don't know really what that says, but it certainly doesn't make him into a kind of an ideal role model. I mean, I'm really glad that Dylan got me into this, but I certainly wouldn't want to wind up where he is,
Yeah, you've also said a lot of things actually.
I have. I'm saying more, boy.
You've said electric music keeps people at a distance. Do you reckon that's what Dylan was trying to do back in 1965?
No, I think he just felt like it anyway because it was so exciting. And you know, again, it's a sort of testosterone thing. It's really exciting when you're a young male and now female to stand up and make a lot of noise. But I just found over the years that the less noise you make, the more you actually communicate directly with an audience. And one of the quickest ways of putting up a screen is putting on an electric guitar. So tonight, I sort of about 2/3 of the way through the set, I pick up an electric, and I immediately feel further away from the crowd. You know, there's something between me and them. And I think actually what happened to Dylan, to answer your question, is that he did begin to disappear into his music, and I always think I mean, you know, he had that kind of level of interest with everybody in the world peering at him. That naturally tends to make one a little retiring. But I think he sort of vanished into the electricity, and I'd still love to see Dylan just do a tour by himself with an acoustic. For instance, I don't think he could get away with getting on stage and not saying anything to the audience. If you listen to old tapes when Bob was still talking to the audience, he was hysterical. I mean, he was, you know, like all good entertainers, he could do comedy and he could do, you know, misery or whatever. And it seems to me like it's all tipped over towards the misery end of the clock, and which is a real shame.
Yeah, definitely. He certainly had a little routine in the early days. I suppose maybe that was just more to get himself noticed, you know, falling off the stool and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And there was definitely more songs like Motorcycle, Nightmare and
I Shall Be Free, yeah. Have you heard that Halloween concert?
No.
It's Halloween '64. The one where he says, I've got my Bob Dylan mask on. But I mean, the audience obviously love him. You know, he doesn't have to do anything, but he talks to them. He seems to respond to the fact they love him. Now they still love him, but he sort of just comes on like an old bear and kind of grunts, you know. And,
yeah, I saw him when he was over here last year, and there was definitely a bit of a barrier there. For Storefront Hitchcock, you've gone back to the basics, as you say. Is that a true test for a song to play it in its bare bones form?
Oh yeah, very much, and for the performer. I mean, I used to work live with bands, and everything was you know, it had the harmonies and the bass lines and all that stuff to lean on. And in fact, last time I came out to Australia, I was opening for the Cruel Sea, and I started at that point to work on my own, and I wasn't very good actually, but I wasn't used to it. It was not like being a sort of a head without a body, you know. You could just float off at any minute. But I think, yeah, you've got to be able to cut it on your own, you and the songs, and that's what it's about. But I've been doing this for 25 years, so, you know, if I can't do it now, then I should probably be removed on a trolley, preferably with not terribly squeaky wheels, and sort of, you know, sent to do something else.
Yeah, well, how do you arrive at a song selection for a CD or a film?
You mean this one?
Yeah, the Storefront
Well,
Hitchcock.
this was very much actually Jonathan Demme and I between us. This is a sort of version of the set that he saw myself and Denny Bonet, the violinist, playing in upstate New York one misty April night in 1995. And he appeared in the dressing room after the first set. Someone said, "It's Jonathan Demme," and I said, "Oh, I doubt that." And he came up through a trapdoor with his wife, and they chatted for a bit, and they went off again. And Michelle, my girlfriend, said, "That was him. That was Jonathan Demme." So we thought, God, you know, is Scorsese going to come through next? You know, why is Jonathan Demme in our dressing room? This is very flattering, but it's, you know, there wasn't any warning. There weren't advanced messengers, you know. And anyway, he liked that set, so this is based on what he saw me doing back then, but with a few new songs that I'd written sort of to stick in the movie. Songs that I knew wouldn't need a harmony, like 1974.
I see. And the general premise of the film is to have you sitting in a storefront window.
Standing, like you.
Standing?
Yeah.
And there's... I haven't seen the film, and I don't know if we will get to see it in a hurry down in Melbourne, but...
You probably will, because it's showing in Sydney on the weekend, and they've told me the print's going to stay around in Australia for a while, so...
Oh, good.
I hope it gets up here.
And there's an unseen audience all the way through.
Yeah, you can hear them, but you can't see them. That's because Jonathan wanted to make the people in the movie house feel like they were the audience. So you've got me. In fact, you've got the street, then you've got me, then you've got the real audience, then you've got the film audience, then you've got the real audience. And I've seen it work. The live audience sets the cinema audience off. It works quite well. So in essence, they think they're at a gig, which was a good move on his part, I think.
Are you an actor, as such?
No. I'm completely transparent. I'm unable to dissemble at all. I'm not even a politician. I've learned how to be diplomatic, but I don't think I could. I don't think I'd even go on Neighbours and empty the dustbins or something. I think people would say, boy, this guy, No, I'm not at all an actor.
So, do you like being filmed?
Much more than being photographed, because in the movie, the camera is reeling, so you're not caught for one moment. If you're being photographed, they freeze 1 second of your expression, and I always feel like an animal caught in the headlights about to become roadkill, which is why I have that rather sickly expression in most of my photos, or a very angry one. I never got the thing of smiling for the camera, but then smiles can be deceitful.
And I also read that you and Jonathan Demme have an aversion to lip syncing. What other things were done to keep the integrity of the performance?
Sushi to start with, and then no, we would just. It was really great. He does live takes, and so do I. I think that what would have been even more exciting would have been not to have had a set list. We had 20 songs that we went through 4 times, which means that I perform very well, but I seem a little uptight in the film. And I think that the last song was actually one that isn't scheduled. It wasn't scheduled, called I Don't Remember Guildford, and my face noticeably relaxes in that. If we were doing it again, I would have had a slightly more random set list, because I think I'd have been more spontaneous. But it meant the playing is very together. Denny and I, that track you played, Thundering, we were, very well rehearsed, because that was probably the 10th time we'd done it in 2 days,
Well, we'll get you to do another one if you're agreeable, but we'll just talk about the gig tonight at the Punters Club. Dave Graney and Claire Moore, I've heard it said that they'll be joining you at some stage during the proceedings?
Probably nearer the end than the beginning. We're going to rehearse and see how it sounds, but I think they're acting as the band tonight, so we're going to do some of my songs from not very old, stuff about 10 years ago.
All right. And supporting you will be Chuck from the Ice Cream Hands,
whom I've met. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit of an aficionado of your work. So
yeah, he's coming to Sydney as well, which I
right.
believe Dave and Claire may be as well.
Okay, and where else around Australia are you playing?
Sadly, only these 2 places. I mean, I was actually sort of brought here by the film people to introduce the movie in Sydney, and I managed to get Gerard from Premiere to get me a couple of gigs, but I'm not doing a tour as such. I'm just, Australia is one of the few places that you can't get to by accident from Britain. You can even find yourself in LA if you don't concentrate. But Australia, you have to really mean to do it. You have to save up or find someone who's going to pay for you to get here. It's not some... they're always sort of saying, well, it costs you a fingernail to go to New York now, and it probably does, but... Which is why this is only the 2nd time I've been here, and I should probably have stayed longer, but I'll try and come back if I can.
You can whet people's appetites this time around.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, can we hear another song?
Yeah, I'd just like to say also it's fantastic to be surrounded by all these trams, because Britain's been virtually tram-free since I was born. The trams last ran in London in 1952, the year before I was born. So to be able to sit there on Fitzroy, every time I just take pictures of them as they come by. You can eat and watch trams.
We haven't got the conductors anymore, but we still got the trams.
Oh, really? What, they got rid of them?
Just drivers and ticket machines.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they stay. This is also from the record, I think.
I something you. As the nights get older, I something you. As if you couldn't see. In the best years of my life, at least I haven't got a wife. I something you. You what, not me. I something you. As the dead things moulder in Leicester Square, that's the place to be. After all these ruined years, let me realize your fears. I something you. You what, not me. In this kind of song, middle bits are so predictable, but you came along. You were not at all predictable. I didn't think you'd be like this. I didn't think you'd be like this. Well, I didn't even think that you'd be like this, that you'd be like this, but I feel like this, but I something you. As the nights get colder and you heat up and you are next to me in the twilight of this world, you are my Dutch, Australian, Hungarian, Jewish girl. I something you. You what, not me. I something you. You something me.
Robyn Hitchcock, live in the studio, and we'll see you tonight at the Punters Club.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.